Hello and welcome to Life by Words. I'm Derek Prasad and this is my co-host, Carl Foster.
Yay.
Carl, today we're going to be talking about the topic of faith. This is our fourth episode, actually, our fourth segment. And today's episode we're going to discuss the topic of faith from the Bible.
Right.
Well, what exactly is faith? We looked it up actually on the internet, and the definition that we got of faith is to warrant belief without absolute proof. Well, when you say faith, just what exactly do you think about? Do you think about faith in, going to your car, starting the car, and the ignition, putting the ignition? You don't even think about it. You have the faith that the car is actually going to start. You have faith that your friends and family will always be there for you. You have faith that God created the world. God created everything. By faith, we have that belief. Belief is the word, actually, probably that's most synonymous with the word faith.
Right.
So when you say the word faith, belief is probably what comes to mind more so than the word faith.
Right.
Carl, what exactly does the Bible tell us about the word faith? What does it tell us about faith exactly?
Well, Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1, now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. I'd like to go a little further about it, so the evidence of things not yet seen. Because we know it will come to pass, so we know we will see it. So to have faith is to believe, basically. It's to believe in something. It's to believe that it's something. It's to have hope for, basically,
right.
Something that's going to come to be fulfilled.
Right.
Hebrews chapter 11, verse 6. But without faith it is impossible to please him that cometh to God. He who cometh to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. So in order for us to even come to God, we first got to believe. And in order to believe in the Word of God, we've got to first read the Word of God. Now faith comes by hearing, and hear by the Word of God. So we believe that basically in order to grow and in order to expand ourselves in this world and this life, we just have to have more faith. We just have to believe a little bit more. And I think with believing, belief is practice. I think having faith is practice, because if you never put into practice these things, then you'll never really get a chance to really believe. My mom always said one thing just came to mind. She says, belief kills and belief cures. Now, you can believe something because people will die for their belief.
That's right.
That's one. And believe cure, because you can believe that God will heal you. The Bible says that faith like a grain of mustard seed. You can say this mountain, be thou removed, and it shall be cast away. Right? So we definitely got to believe. And if we believe, and we believe strong that God will heal us from this, from a disease, from a particular illness, God will do it. Absolutely. And to me, that's what belief really stands for. Not just that, but I mean, one other thing came to mind by just talking. I had a previous pastor that used to attend a church, and he was saying basically with faith, he says so many people says, oh, I'm standing on faith and I'm walking by faith. And he's like, okay, let's go see. I'm going to stand on the train tracks and say, I'm standing on faith. I'm standing on this track saying, you know what, this train ain't going to hit me, this train is coming. It's like, well, you know what, we're not like you're going to get hit. But if you're walking by faith, you're walking next to these tracks, then definitely, then you know exactly that you're not going to get hit. So in our Christian walk is that we have to walk with God, not try to get ahead of Him, but get on track and get ahead of God, to say, you know what, I'm going to take in then whatever God can pick up at the end. But to walk by faith, to walk with God and to learn and to realize that He will lead and direct our lives in every step of the way. I hope what I said really made sense, because, I just believe that we really have to grow and to really grow by faith. But faith is definitely the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen.
Absolutely. And what else does the Word tell us about faith? It also tells us in Romans chapter 1, verse 17. The second part of the verse actually says, the just shall live by faith. So as Christians, we are to live by faith. The just, who is those of us who are saved, we're to live by faith. We walk by faith, not by sight, is the second verse that I have also here, 2 Corinthians 5:7, which says, for we walk by faith, not by sight. Now, again, funny you should mention that you know, faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the Word of God.
Right.
If we hear the Word of God, it helps us to build our faith. If we are studying the Scriptures, we look up faith, we look up Scriptures on faith, and then study it, and it will help us to build faith. If you need encouragement on love, you read the Scriptures of love, and it will build your faith on love. You need healing, you read the Scriptures on healing. It'll help to build your faith on the ability of God's healing power. So faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the Word of God. Because we hear. How do we learn? We learn by hearing. We learn by, and not having heard. It's not to say that you're going to read it once and say, oh, faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the Word of God, and that all of a sudden your faith is built. No, faith comes by hearing, not by having heard. And you know, Carl, you mentioned earlier that faith without works is dead. And truthfully it is. But faith and works are a little bit, they go hand in hand. Faith is kind of like patience and love. Faith and works go hand in hand because, you know, like you said earlier about the train tracks, I remember growing up in the church, and I heard a pastor one time say, you know, I believe if I sit here and I eat this plate of food, there's a starving man, and he's sitting in front of a plate of food, and he said, I believe if I eat this plate of food, I will not die. I will live and not die. And he can sit there and confess that, but until he actually picks up the fork, grabs a piece of the chicken and eats some rice and chicken, or whatever it is that's in front of him, he will actually die, because faith without works is dead. So if you sit there and you say, I believe, I believe, I believe, yes, it's great to believe, because faith, again, the best synonym that I can think of for the word faith is believe. You can believe it, but sometimes you have to act upon that faith in order for things to happen, in order for God to actually move in your life. You can't get in your car and say, I believe if I get in this car and I'm going to Miami, I'm going to end up in Miami. And you sit there in the car and you keep saying it. Well, true, right? You are believing that you're going to be in Miami. But unless you actually put the key in the ignition, turn the ignition, start the car, and start driving, you're going to be sitting in your driveway probably till Jesus comes back, believing that you're going to be in Miami. But Orlando is not going to have Miami show up in Orlando in your driveway just because you believe.